Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today, we'll be talking about a very important visit of the Russian Foreign Minister, Mr. Lavrov. After being in India and Delhi, he has reached Pakistan on a two-day official visit on 6th and 7th, that is tomorrow. And he's going to hold some very important meetings, including the meeting with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, as well as the Army Chief and senior high officials. This is after 9 years that the Russian Foreign Minister has arrived in Pakistan. The last visit was made in 2012. That was during the time when Pakistan People's Party was in charge of the government. Now, there are so many MOUs that need to be signed, a lot of agreements are in the pipeline, and so many economic issues would be also resolved, other than making sure that there should be a balanced approach regarding the region. The region, in fact, when we talk about Pakistan and India, there is a conflict. You talk about Turkey and Syria, there is a conflict. You talk about Iran and Saudi Arabia, there is a conflict. You talk about Armenia and Azerbaijan, there is an issue. So Russia is primarily looking after to make sure that issues should be sorted out. But the most important part is about Afghanistan peace process. So our production team has prepared a report. Let's watch it.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Russian Special Envoy to Afghanistan Zamir Kabulov are visiting Pakistan on a two-day visit. Russian Foreign Minister's visit is a first in 9 years. The visit is extremely important because it concerns much more than just the Afghan peace process. South Asia and especially Pakistan has an indispensable role to play as it constitutes roughly a quarter of the world's population, which in turn imbues it with promising economic potential across the 21st century. The Russian Foreign Minister will have delegation-level talks with Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. He will call on Prime Minister Imran Khan and have interaction with other dignitaries as well. Prime Minister Imran Khan met with Russian President Putin at the SCO summit in Bishkek in June 2019. It was the beginning of a new era in relations between the two countries. Pakistan and Russia enjoy friendly and cooperative relations based on mutual respect, trust and understanding. Bilateral cooperation is growing across a wide range of areas of common interest, including in security and defense, counter-terrorism, and the Afghan peace process. Over the recent past, deepening collaboration in economic, trade, and energy sectors has been the focus of the two governments. The visit of Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will contribute to further deepening of the multifaceted bilateral relationship and enhancing the mutual understanding on regional and global issues.
Now, considering the importance of this visit, obviously a lot will be talked about, though it's a short visit, but still, as mentioned earlier in the report, I mean, the areas of defense, security, counter-terrorism, economy, and energy, other than regional peace, that is going to be the major area they'll be focusing on. And as we know, that when it comes to the kind of situation that is currently in Afghanistan, Russia is playing a very important role, so is Pakistan, China, Iran, and United States of America. To talk about this, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us on Skype Lieutenant General retired Raza Muhammad Khan Saab, who's a senior analyst. General Saab, thank you so much, and what a pleasure to have you in the show, sir. And we will be also talking to Dr. Azmat Hayat. He's an expert on foreign affairs. Dr. Azmat remained director of Area Studies Center for 14 years, did joint research with Institute of Oriental Studies, Moscow. Dr. Saab, thank you so much for taking out the time and being a part of Pakistan television. And we'll also be having a word with Ali Sarwar Naqvi Saab. He's a former ambassador, senior diplomat. Naqvi Saab has also served in Moscow, and we'll be definitely taking his input as well in the program. But let me start off from you, General Raza Muhammad Khan Saab. First of all, sir, the visit after almost 9 years and the kind of understanding earlier which we had with the Russians, whether you talk about the time of 60s when the Cold War was at its peak and Pakistan was in the other alignment with the United States of America. Later on, 70s, then we saw 80s. But eventually, after the breakup of Soviet Union, things were different. Now it seems that Pakistan really want that there should be, the role of the regional players should be much more than the outsiders, especially when we talk about the regional peace, in particular in Afghanistan. First of all, sir, your take and the importance of this very significant visit of the Russian Foreign Minister. General Saab.
Can you hear me clearly? Because I think that there is some disturbance in the sound.
General Saab, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, but there is some disturbance in the sound.
Sir, I can hear you. If you may just throw light on the importance and significance of this visit, sir.
Okay. I think, first of all, as you said, I think this was a very long awaited visit from a very important new friend of Pakistan. Unlike the US Secretary of State, who would go to India, who would be in the region, but who would conveniently skip Pakistan. I think this visit in that way is very important, that he has visited India, but from there he has come and visited Pakistan. Now, you talked of the past. Of course, relations in the past between Pakistan, the Soviet Union, and subsequently Russia were not as cordial. But now I think because new geostrategic realities have emerged, and because of that, I think both Russia as well as Pakistan, they need each other. And I think the US efforts, again, to put sanctions on Russia, and also its effort to contain China, are bringing Russia and China together, which actually goes to the advantage of Pakistan. In that context, I would make a mention of President Xi's initiative of BRI, of which CPEC is an integral part, an important part, and President Putin, a greater European partnership. Now, both these mega projects, I think they are complementary, and I think there is a general consensus between the two presidents that it is in the interest of both these countries, in the interest of Asia and Europe, and all these countries around, that both these projects succeed. And therefore, I think India would it would be better in its own interest also not to oppose it. At the same time, Russia has, in the very recent past, supported the CASA 1000 project, has supported the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan gas pipeline project. It even, proposed to build that pipeline itself. And therefore, I think this is a great opportunity for both Pakistan and Russia to come together. Although in the past, a number of MOUs between the two countries have been signed, but unfortunately, nothing tangible has come out of that. And we hope that in these 2 days of visit of the Russian foreign minister, there will be follow-up of other senior ministers from Russia who could actually carry forward the whatever defense cooperation is there between Pakistan and Russia, and also economic and trade partnership between Pakistan and Russia. Because, as I said, because of the economic sanctions on Russia, I think most of the energy exports and the exports of Russia are 80% related to energy. They could actually flow towards Pakistan, like the construction of the Lahore-Karachi gas pipeline, the LNG projects, and the other two mega projects like CASA and TAPI. So I think all these things put together, and also the convergence of interest between Russia and Pakistan to bring peace to Afghanistan, I think augurs very well for the relations of the two countries and for peace in the Asian region.
All right. Now, coming to you, Dr. Azmat Hayat Saab. Now, the interesting part is that when we talk about Russia and Pakistan, We do understand the kind of importance the Russians had regarding the steel mill, Pakistan steel mill. And as far as the military equipment is concerned, normally we were always dependent on the American technology. But lately, when we talk about the army aviation, we depend on the French as well as the Russians. Now, lately on the 23rd of March, when I saw these Mi-35 helicopters flying, so that was a very good sign that, there is kind of an equilibrium, a balance is taking place. First of all, sir, your take regarding the visit, and do you think the old grudges, obviously there were, sir. I've read a book in which Putin has very categorically mentioned that when he was working for KGB, and later on when he was holding the power, he was very disturbed when USSR was broken, and a lot of states they were separated from the USSR, and that is not a joke, sir. But having said that, now do you think this particular geostrategic equation has changed and things are much different the way they were in 60s and 70s?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First, I would like to say that improving relations with Russia would be a big landmark in our nation's history. The Russians have always wanted to improve relations with Pakistan, but it was from Pakistan's side that they were not encouraged. Relations with Russia has two major obstacles. I hope we can overcome that. One is confidence building, starting from the first Prime Minister's visit to United States. He was given an invitation by the Russians. Then came the Afghan war, then the U2 incident, Afghan war, and lately when Putin wanted to visit Pakistan and announce funding for the project, gas pipeline project from Iranian border to Indian border, they changed their mind and the visit was postponed. So the two major obstacles in our relations with Russia are confidence building and sustainability. The Russians have a sustained long-term planning. They have a 100-year planning, whereas we don't even have a 2-year planning. So whenever I was a regular visitor to Russia, to their diplomatic academy, we used to have long discussions, and these are the two biggest obstacles that we have. The geopolitics, geostrategies of the region has changed. America has lost the great game. Our future lies in the East and not in the West. Like you said it twice, that the breakup of the Soviet Union. In Area Study Center, we never called it the breakup. It was a political change. It's a change from the top, not from the bottom. Nobody asked for independence. They were given independence. There was no agitation. First, they used to have one embassy. Now they have 14 embassies and working for them. So Russia is a nation power. We need to improve our relations. They have good institutions. We can send in our scholars there. We can have research in textile, which they offer themselves. Twice I was told in Moscow that our businessmen wanted to invest in textiles, but they were not encouraged. So our future lies in the East and not in the West. America has lost a great game. Once they pack up from Afghanistan, they'll never return to this region again. So I think we should, in the interest of our nation, we should improve relations with Russia and try to have more economics. Like it's the era of geoeconomics, not geopolitics. And our economy is tied to our neighbors, to our Western neighbors, and not to Europe or America. So I look at this visit with great hope. I hope we overcome these obstacles and we have good relations with Russia.
And Dr. Saab, one more thing. Do you think a successful visit of the Russian foreign minister would definitely pave way for the visit of the Russian Prime Minister, Mr. Vladimir Putin?
Well, the Russians, they would look at the results. If Putin wants to visit Pakistan, they have a system that the president announces certain amount of funding, aid to that country. Last time he was coming, he was going to announce the funding for the pipeline from Iranian border to Indian border, which would have been a big landmark in our economic and foreign relations with India and the region. But then our country backed out. They refused the funding and the visit was postponed. So the Russians, they look at results, not to us. I mean, they are not short-sighted. I mean, he may have a successful visit. He'll meet senior officers. He'll be giving grand receptions, but he'll look at the results. So we'll have to see what the results are.
All right. Ali Sarwar Naqvi Saab, you have served in Russia. You were a diplomat, and I'm sure those must have been the days when things were not that great between the two countries. As earlier mentioned by General Saab, that energy, economy, bilateral trade, other than the geostrategic importance is there. And then Dr. Saab also, in fact, pointed out two very important areas. One is regarding the energy, and obviously that is related to your economy. And the second is about the confidence building measures. Let's start off from there, sir. Naqvi Saab, your take.
Thank you, Faisal. It's a pleasure to be here on your program.
Sir, pleasure is all ours.
First, let me correct that I was not posted to Russia, but I have been to Russia a number of times at the invitation of the Russian government. And I have attended the Moscow Conference on International Security 3 years in a row. So I know Russia, and I have been in touch with many of their think tanks. Now, regarding the subject that you have broached, let me make a preliminary comment that the diplomacy of the 21st century is changing very fast. It is not the diplomacy of the 20th century, which means what? It means that Russia, which has been a long-standing friend of India, is now opening up towards Pakistan, is making overtures of friendship towards Pakistan. Similarly, China, who is a very good friend of Pakistan, has a very thriving trade relationship with India. So in 21st century, the lines are blurred, and no one link or alliance stands in the pursuit of diplomacy. Now, as regards Russia, we have, as has already been pointed out, bilateral interests with Russia, number of projects, number of areas. You yourself mentioned cooperation in energy, cooperation in combating terrorism. That was the reason we were included in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in fact. And a number of other, in some of the infrastructure projects, in the energy projects, in many areas that Russia wants to invest in Pakistan. Then there is the regional perspective. That is, Afghanistan is of great interest to Russia at the moment. They have hosted the Afghan leaders, the intra-Afghan dialogue 3 times. Third time is about to take place soon. So then there is the international perspective, Middle East, and the situation in Yemen or in Syria, Iraq, and overall cooperation between Pakistan and Russia in the United Nations, at the international forum. So all these areas are going to be discussed, and this is, I think, a valuable opportunity for the government of Pakistan to have the presence of Sergei Lavrov in Pakistan. Now, Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, is one of the top foreign ministers of the world. He is rated along with Jawad Zarif of Iran as an outstanding foreign minister, a diplomat in the international arena. So we have here an opportunity to raise with Mr. Lavrov all these issues. I think we should, personally, we should focus on cooperation in Afghanistan, and we should focus on Russian help and assistance in energy projects.
All right. Now, Ambassador Saab, a couple of more points. One is regarding the visit of the Russian foreign minister, but Mr. Kabulov is also with him, the special envoy of Russia to Afghanistan. Do you think the focus primarily would be about the Afghan peace process or the related areas which earlier you mentioned, or General Saab, or even Dr. Saab mentioned, regarding the CASA 1000 or perhaps IPI or TAPI, as they also talked about, primarily the energy projects or the infrastructure? Those would be the major focus of discussion, sir.
Yeah, Faisal, I think the reason, motivating factor, not the reason, but the motivating factor for Lavrov's visit to Pakistan at this juncture is a consultation in regard to Afghanistan. And that I think we have this opportunity of finding out what is their assessment of the intra-Afghan dialogue and how the Afghan parties, all these stakeholders, are going to be following these objectives in the near future. But we can avail of this opportunity to emphasize bilateral cooperation and to talk about the energy projects, particularly TAPI, IP, and the north-south gas pipeline that the Russians themselves are ready to provide us. So we also can consult with them and talk about combating terrorism. We have an excellent record in dealing with terrorism over the last few years, and we have done Zarb al and the Rad al-Fasad and all these major offensives against terrorism in Pakistan. So we can bring to his attention what Pakistan has been doing and what our commitment to combating terrorism is, which will get us a good image in the Russian Foreign Office, in the Kremlin, and in other such forums.
All right. Now, General Saab, coming to you, I still remember once Pakistan did not attend the Olympics that were held in Russia, boycotted. The Chechnya issue was always there, sir. The support for the Muslim rebels. Again, we were in the American camp, so primarily we all know what happened in 60s and 70s, what was the Badabir incident and the U2 issue and so on and so forth. And later on, whatever happened, we are all aware of that also. Do you think this is the time that, as earlier mentioned by Ambassador Saab, that the politics and the our diplomacy was very different, say, in the previous century? But this is 2021. Things have changed. Geodynamics have changed. Politics have changed. Leaders have changed. Equations have changed. So do you think now this is the time that we should not look west? We should have a great relationship with the West, but shouldn't totally depend on the West. Rather, as they say, this is the century of the East. We should focus on the region and East. Your take, sir?
Yes, first of all, I think one would hope that both the countries could leave the past behind and move forward. And in that, of course, you have made a mention of whatever happened soon after the partition and then till the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. We also need to remember that, the breakup of East Pakistan was an issue in which the Soviet Union supported India in every possible manner. And I even recall that, on the 13th or 14th of December in 1971, when the Indian paratroopers landed in East Pakistan, they were supported by Russian aircraft, and also that in the United Nations Security Council and in the General Assembly, all Western resolutions that asked for the withdrawal of the Indian forces from East Pakistan were effectively and they were vetoed by Russia. But I think we
even on Kashmir issues, sir. Yeah.
Of course, yes. So they had a different policy, and of course we had a different policy, and then we need to put that behind us and move forward. There was an irritant which went on for a very long time, and that was regarding Pakistan's obligation, to pay Russia as when the Russia was part of the USSR. So I think about $95 million or so. And I think the government of Pakistan agreed to pay that. So I think that shouldn't be any issue now, and that should be forgotten. Coming on, now to what should happen. In Afghanistan, ISIS is a common threat both to Pakistan, to the West, and to Russia. And I think there would be a lot of discussion on the elimination of ISIS. In addition to that, I think Pakistan must sound its own concerns about other terrorist groups operating in Afghanistan, particularly the spoilers from India, particularly, the raw agents and consulates from India which are established there. And one would hope, that once these concerns are communicated to the Russian foreign minister, they would use their good offices and their influence to prevail upon India to actually end that terrorism against Pakistan. So I think I'm sure that will be discussed. The issue of the Russian President's special envoy, again, Mr. Kabalov himself is a very seasoned politician who stayed as ambassador in Afghanistan for a long time, and he is Uzbek by ethnicity. So I think even his coming here to Pakistan is a very welcome step, and I think he will play a very positive role in bringing peace to Afghanistan. I am also sure that the Foreign Office will also sound, Pakistan's position on Kashmir and the plight of the Indian Muslims in India. And we hope that once these concerns are communicated to the Russian foreign minister, they in turn would definitely, I think, in some form, influence India so that peace and stability in the subcontinent prevails. While some kind of defense cooperation has started between Pakistan and Russia, which is very welcome, and we have been having joint exercises, and we are members of the SCO, and a lot maybe in the pipeline. But the Russian sales of defense equipment to India, particularly the S-400 system.
S-400 missile system, yeah?
Missile system, that should be a matter of concern for Pakistan.
So even the jets, I mean, Russian technology is there, left, right, and center in India. So you talk about their air force, totally dependent on the
absolutely,
Russians.
yes. But
other than
right now,
a couple of French
Russia
planes.
is getting, yes, Russia is getting, a little edgy because Indians are now buying from France, from Israel, and the US. So I think some commentators say that that is probably one reason why the Russian policy towards Pakistan and India may become more pragmatic and more balanced. And therefore, probably Russia will now open up not only in the economic sector, but also in the defense field with Pakistan, which will augur well for both countries. And I think, as you said, Pakistan has to have a balance in its relationship with the West, with Russia, as well as with China.
Now, Jalsab, last quick comment, because that is also related to the military. I mean, you talked about the joint military exercises. What a wonderful, experience that was, that the Russians are landing in Pakistan. They were, doing joint military exercises in Pakistan again. And the way they were treated, and, my own course-mates were telling me that, we felt so great, working with the Russian soldiers and, talking to them, sharing the experiences. Now, one major aspect, sir, since when we talk about America-Pakistan relationship, again, the prism is Afghanistan. But talking about Pakistan and Russia relationship, sir, the prism should not be India. Because if you look at the balance regarding the military, it's too much favored, towards India, whether the Americans or otherwise. So over here, you talk about S-400 missile system. The Americans have an issue, but Indians won't listen. You talk about manufacturing of American jets, whether it's F-18 Hornets or F-21, a new version of F-16 in India, or now the Russians have also, in fact, hinted that they can jointly develop military equipment inside India. Don't you think that is going to be a problem? But we shouldn't worry. How do you take that, sir?
Yes, of course, Russia would say that their relationship with Pakistan is not at the cost of India and vice versa, and that is how it should be. But if you recall, it is not so in India. India vehemently opposed the joint military exercises with Russia, whereas Pakistan has really not done so. Whenever Russia has supported India militarily and at the UN and everywhere. So as I said, now the geopolitics and geostrategic compulsions of both Russia, Pakistan, they have changed now. And with the formation of the Quad, wherein the Asia Pacific region has been changed into the Indo-Pacific region. I don't know whether it's a wise thing to do or not, but even that may hurt Russia, although it is primarily designed to contain China. So both Russia and China are pushed towards each other, and I think because the sanctions on Pakistan for military sales by the United States remain in place. Therefore, I think it is in the interest of all these three countries to depend on each other for exchanges of defense under the umbrella of the SCO or any other regional organizations, and also to cooperate very closely in the extension of the northern alignment of the CPEC, to the Central Asian Republic, and giving a very clear and assured access not only to the Central Asian republics, but also to Russia, to the Gwadar port. And I think once that happens, relations between Russia and Pakistan would improve further.
All right. Now, coming to you, Dr. Saab, couple of points. Why Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov's South Asia trip is so important? From the Pakistani perspective, it seems that it is definitely going to pave way for the President Putin's visit. Now, new law has been signed by Vladimir Putin that can keep him as the president till 2036. Means at least for another 15 years. So, it is more or less like the 3 terms of various governments in Pakistan. Just look at that from another perspective. Now, sir, it also suggests that if it is going to pave way for his visit to Pakistan, that is going to be something really great, and I think Pakistan would be really looking forward for that. The point here is, sir, the Russian investments, whether in the steel sector, gas pipeline projects, energy projects, access to the warm waters, use of CPEC for their own purpose, for the transfer of goods and all. You think, sir, the real issue would be the greater Euro-Asian partnership, and Pakistan can really be a strong partner in that particular group? Your take, Dr. Saab?
Well, first of all, I'd like to commend you and share with you what you've said before, that we look at our relations with Russia through Indian prism. This is what irritates Russian scholars and Russian diplomats, that why compare yourself with India? I mean, it's a big country. They have $40 billion investment. They're producing defense equipment, Russian defense equipment under license. So why compare with them? Protect your own interests. So our problem is that we sacrifice our own interests from now for no rhyme or reason. China and India have been fighting a battle up in Siachen and in northern Kashmir, but still they have $62 billion business. We sacrificed our sugar and cotton for Kashmir. I mean, we didn't care about our teeming, starving millions. So our relations with Russia should be based on our own interests rather than on relations. Iran has very good relations with India. America has excellent relations with India.
Saudi
starting
Arabia,
from high
Egypt,
school
you
level
name
to
it.
Egypt. So we look at everything from Indian angle and we destroy our own interests. Actually, that's the problem. We don't have proper statesmen in our embassy to look at our own interests. So, and another thing is that the regional politics are changing very fast. Very soon, the Americans will dump Saudi Arabia for Iran. The Americans have lost the war. What they came for, they couldn't achieve. Now they'll either work for the balkanization of Afghanistan or they leave this place. I mean, there was an interview by Colonel Wilkinson, who was a colonel staff officer to one of the army chief, and he said, in Afghanistan, we neither are interested in Afghan government, nor the Taliban, nor the terrorists. Our interest, number one, is containment of China. Second is Pakistan nuclear power. The third is to incite Uyghurs against the Chinese and to chase them from Xinjiang. So America has different objectives, but we look at our interest from another angle. I think this visit would be a landmark, but provided the results come out positive. Russia may have supported India in many cases, which was their right because they have a heavy investment there. But if they are giving us, I was in a Russian delegation to Balochistan, and they offered filtration plant in Gwadar and a manufactured plant of Belarus tractors in Balochistan. They said it's fit for terrain. It's been 15 years, and the offer has melted somewhere, I don't know. So the Russians are willing to help us as much as they can. It's we who are not taking our interest in view. We look at everything from Indian angle, and we have suffered a lot because of that.
So primarily, what you have suggested, that Pakistan should focus on their own agenda rather than seeing what kind of a relationship Russians have with the Indians. So we need to, that is something pretty important. Earlier, if you remember, Dr. Saab, talking about the IPI gas pipeline project, I still remember during the last couple of months of the Pakistan People's Party's government, President Asif Zardari went there and everything was done. Mr. Jawad Zarif was there. The president was, at that time, really supported this whole idea, and they also in fact showed keen interest that they can, Iran, I still remember they were ready to invest $250 million so that Pakistan can make the pipeline. All went in vain. Forget about IPI, let's make it IP. So the problem is, again, we didn't do anything. The issue was the American pressure. So now, as you mentioned that things have changed, I think this is going to be a great start for Pakistan, because at the end of the day, sir, what matters is the economy. If you have a strong economy, no matter how small the country is, people or various countries would look forward to be a part of your design, rather than Pakistan just shying away because some X country has a better relationship with India, or another Y country has a great understanding with the Indians as well. So I think a very important point raised, Dr. Saab. Now coming to you, Ambassador, don't you think our Foreign Office, and especially those who are working in Russia, in our embassy, or perhaps so many think tanks working together with the Russians, they should all gear up. Let's define our areas of convergence rather than the areas of divergence. And also perhaps speed up the process, sir. MOUs, they take place, I mean, so many times, but time to take concrete measures and go forward with them. Ambassador Saab.
Yeah, you see, you are quite right. This is something that we need to do and we need to focus on. The point is that in diplomacy, progress is incremental. It slowly accumulates and it leads towards further consolidation. So we are doing what needs to be done. Two of our recent ambassadors in Moscow were Russian-speaking ambassadors, we have a cadre of junior officers also who speak Russian. This is very important because you can interact with the people directly in that country. And secondly, we have to have a strengthened relationship with with the Russian think tanks and our think tanks, with with Russian universities and our universities, and media, with Faisal, your field, we should have interaction in media also, between the two medias. So I think we have to build up a relationship which will be a relationship which stands on its own, irrespective of what the relationship of Russia is with India. We have always seen it, I agree with you, from that perspective, and that is not the right perspective. We should look at a bilateral framework of a relationship. So I think this is one area where we are doing well. I think with Russia we have improved, and that is proven by the fact that Mr. Lavrov is in Islamabad tonight.
I think that's great. But sir, primarily, don't you think that the actual step taken in order to bring these two countries close, that was more or less, inclined towards the military? I remember Hail Shri when the General Bajwa has been there. Then, we primarily talk about defense, we talk about security, we talk about counter-terrorism. Primarily, the jobs related to the men in uniform. So, on the civil side, you also mentioned, energy projects, so many other deals can take place. The bilateral trade hardly exists. So look at the size of these two countries, but still, unfortunately, there are issues. But the most important fact remains that everything is possible, whether you talk about CASA 1000, it could be CASA 5000 at some stage also, sir. Or you talk about the gas pipeline project, or you talk about a railway link, a road link, connecting Pakistan all the way up into the Central Asian states. But the greatest issue would be peace in Afghanistan. Now, sir, do you think that the unfortunate part, which is the role of India in Afghanistan, where they are creating problems, trying to derail the process, that is something I think Pakistan should talk to the Russians also. We have sent so many documents to the United Nations. We have sent dossiers to the Americans. Our ambassadors have been very vocal. But I think Russia is an important, rather equally important stakeholder in the region. And we should tell them that this is what we want, this is what is in our favor. You can continue whatever you're doing with the Indians, but not at the cost of peace in the region, in particular in Afghanistan. Ambassador sir?
Yeah. You see, first, the defense cooperation, you are right that we have been focusing a lot on defense cooperation. And what I outlined before in my previous comment was that we should develop people-to-people contact, intellectual level contact with different intellectual forums and institutions. And then Afghanistan, yes, I think we have to talk to the Russians as to what our role is and what our interest is, and at the other hand, the Indian presence in Afghanistan is that of a spoiler which has been creating problems. Let us be very frank with them, and let us discuss with openly the negative role of India, and share the dossiers that you talked about and all that. Because not that we are against Russia-India relationship, but that we have our own security concerns, which Russians should be aware of, and we should tell them about it.
And I think our mutual benefits are also under threat because of those issues. But anyway, Ambassador Sarwar, was a pleasure having you. General Raza Muhammad Khan, thank you so much for your time. And Dr. Saab, was a pleasure having you in our show, sir. And that's all we have for this hour. Inshallah, we'll also update you in our tomorrow's show regarding the developments, regarding the progress, regarding the meetings with the Chief of Army Staff, with the Prime Minister. And till then, you take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz.